Hey there folks, how you doing today? Hope all is going well with you. Welcome back to the channel. Please bear with any background racket that you might hear throughout this production. We are on location where life happens, and sometimes there's stuff going on out there that interferes with what we're trying to do in here. Most of you will recognize this right away. This is a Keltec KSG. It is not mine. It was borrowed for a different review, and while we have it here, I'm going to touch on it a little bit and use it to illustrate some features that you might not be aware of. Before we get started, as I always like to show, this is a safe and empty weapon. There is one round of ammunition out here on the table. I'm going to leave it right there. And it is there just to illustrate a feature of the Keltec KSG. Keltec came out with the KSG a few years ago, and like most Keltec designs, it's somewhat radical in its appearance. I would call it a bullpup design. Maybe not everybody would, but I think it is. And that is basically where the action is rearward of the trigger group. That was done to condense the overall length of the weapon. As you can see, it's quite short. However, it does maintain a full 18-inch barrel length and an overall length of over 26 inches to bring it into compliance with nonsense federal regulations. I saw one of these at the local academy about a week ago, and I think it was $869, so for what it is, it's not cheap. But what is it? Why would somebody want something like this? Well, if you're not familiar with some of the capabilities and features of the KSG, one of the most notable features, if you look right down here at the end, you see these two screws at the end below the barrel? Folks, those are twin magazine tubes, giving the KSG a capacity with 2 3/4 inch shells of 14+1 or 15 rounds total. For a pump action shotgun, that's pretty significant. So why do I have the mini shell out here? Well, imagine if you would, if you can fit 15 2 3/4 inch shells into the KSG, how many of these bad boys could you fit? I was able to fit 9 of them in each tube. Your mileage may vary. But fitting the mini shells into the shotgun does absolutely no good if it won't reliably function with them. So we tested that out at the range. We're going to test some of these Aguila mini shells in the KSG.
A few moments later.
And what I determined at the range with the mini shells is they hung up a couple of times. So for defensive or tactical purposes, I would say they really didn't work that well in the KSG. For fun and plinking at the range, they worked okay. However, the cost of the mini shells is significantly more than just big box cheap birdshot. So I personally didn't see any benefit to trying to run them in there. Having a capacity of 15 rounds with the standard 2 3/4 inch shells, I think that's probably sufficient for most folks. Some observations that I made while I was at the range: while I certainly think the KSG does need some kind of forward grip on it, I think an angled forward grip like the owner of this weapon has on here might not be the best option. And the reason for that is with this little grip stop bump here that you have on the front end of it, with full power rifled slugs tended to recoil right into the knuckle of your finger. As you can see there in that picture, I had a bruise for several days after the fact. And being as it meets the criteria of a shotgun, you could put a a vertical forward grip on it, and I think that would probably be a better option. Now you will notice that this KSG at the moment is sporting the Crimson Trace HRO, or Heavy Recoil Optic, which was the purpose of the testing with the KSG to begin with. More on that in a separate video. Suffice it to say, maintaining a group at 50 yards with the HRO on this platform was no issue. It really is quite capable with rifled slugs of delivering combat type accuracy at moderate ranges. I wouldn't be afraid of trying to make an engagement with a weapon like this. At ranges out to 100, maybe even 200 yards, you could probably pull it off with a little practice. So now the question would be, why would somebody want something like this? Well, if you needed a really compact, say something you could keep in a duffel bag or behind the seat of a truck shotgun that didn't require any special regulation or licensing, and something that you could cross state lines with, so on and so forth, that offered higher capacity than a traditional pump action shotgun, then absolutely, I think this was a well thought out design and could potentially fill that niche for that consumer. For a bedside gun, for a home protection shotgun, while yes, it would certainly work well in those roles and you'd be able to use it in hallways and so on and so forth with relative ease, it does come at a significant cost. It costs 2 or 3 times as much as either a Mossberg 500 or a Maverick 88, so keep that in mind. You could do a lot of good in other areas with the savings from purchasing one of those others if you could make that other shotgun fit the same role. But regardless, I'm going to cut this short now. I just kind of wanted to show it to you for those of you that weren't familiar with it. I do think it's a neat little weapon, and I thank the owner of it for allowing me to use it for this video. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this production. Again, it was just kind of a last minute idea to show it to you while we were doing the other work, which was the review work on the HRO. But hopefully you got something out of this. If it's something you weren't familiar with, maybe now you are, and I'd like to hear your comments on this production down below. So until next time, take care. God bless.